Welcome to Thou Shalt Not Kill, a podcast about marriage. Hosted by Scott and Ann Travis, this show speaks right to the heart of the challenges that couples face. As marriage veterans of 35 years, they've seen some shit, and they want to help you avoid the pitfalls that could fuck up your marriage. It's time to get your love affair with your spouse back on track to the place you've always hoped it would be, which is starting with the first rule: thou shalt not kill. Here's your hosts, Scott and Ann.
Hey guys, we're back.
We're back.
We're back with the best podcast out there.
Welcome to Thou Shalt Not Kill.
Podcast on marriage.
So, today's topic
is
protecting your relationship.
protecting your relationship from what?
Well, I can think of a for instance. We had a couple that lived next door to
Wait
us.
a minute. Hold on a second.
Am I jumping in too quick?
Yeah, you're jumping way too quick. Let's give an overview on what you're talking about.
Feel free.
Protecting your marriage?
Yes.
So protecting your marriage from what?
From whatever.
From outside sources? From a atom bomb? Protecting your marriage from outside sources?
Maybe I phrased it wrong. Maybe you need to look at your marriage as something that you need to treasure and protect. I know that sounds like a fine difference, but from protect your marriage from all enemies, foreign and domestic.
So circling the wagons, and between you and I, what we're protecting our marriage from the outside.
Foreign or domestic. What about your kids?
What the hell?
Protecting your marriage from your kids. That could be
Yeah.
a 12-part series.
Right. God, microphone just hit me in the mouth.
Oh. How'd that feel?
Good.
Good.
So when you say protecting our marriage,
I think be consciously protective of your relationship. Intentionally protective of your relationship. So let me elaborate. Let's say that we have a group of friends and one of the ladies is super flirty with you.
that's happened.
That has happened. And so I'm going to nip that in the bud because it doesn't serve our relationship.
Okay.
I don't think it's fair to let her think that that's okay.
Okay.
I'm not going to go ballistic and, go WWE on it, but
Well, I hope it's the one that you're talking about. So, but you also need to respect the other person as far as it's not their fault.
yeah, I'm not going to jump your shit about it. I'm just saying, I'm just using that as a for instance.
I know, and I know where you're going with it.
Or kids that are trying to play you against each other.
That's happened.
That's happened to us many times. Protecting yourself from things like that. We had a couple that we lived next door to. We were super tight. We traveled together, golfed a lot, spent a lot of time together. And out of the blue, he left her on, was it Christmas Day?
Well, yeah. So get
Maybe
in.
not out of
If
the
you're
blue
going-
for
if you-
them, but out of the blue for us.
Okay, so this is a story that we'll go into. So if this is, I know who you're talking about. So this was a neighbor, like Ann said, I would consider close
friends.
with.
Yeah.
Traveled together, did a lot of stuff together, and then hell, our back fences. We cut a hole in our back fence. Well, actually, we made a gate in our back fence.
On our side fence.
On our
so
side
we could go
fence.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't have to go out the front door, and we just went through each other's patio door. A little bit older than us.
Yeah, maybe 10 years older than us.
Yeah, at the time we were probably 30s, in our 30s.
I think we were probably
Mid-30s?
No, I think we were probably early 40s at that time.
No, because we were.
No, you're right. Probably late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Late 30s. And everything was peachy keen from
As
the
far
outside.
as we knew.
From
Yeah.
the outside, we were, I liked him, she liked her. We got along together. Nothing crazy.
Mm-mm.
Just a regular, almost like a regular,
Close friendship.
friendship. So we'd smoke cigars and drink wine in the backyard. We'd go in jacuzzi. Just everything was just normal.
We'd go on golf vacations together. We golfed a lot.
Yeah, went to Hawaii
out
with
to
them.
dinner all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
were together a lot. So one year we were at their house for Christmas Eve.
dinner was great.
And I
Everyone
think
was-
Scott's mom was in that trip, and the kids and us, and all of us went over there for dinner.
Yeah.
Everything was great. I remember Scott was doing dishes, or I was doing dishes, and I remember walking up behind Scott and just squeezing him. I do that a lot. Like I'll walk up behind his back and wrap my arms around his stomach and give him a squeeze. And it didn't stand out until the next day when we found out what happened.
Well, and then going back on the flirtiness, he was never really flirty with you, but he always envied you.
He wasn't flirty with me, but I remember one time I gave him a hug and like he sniffed my face, and I thought that was such an
And
intimate
I didn't know
thing.
that. I had no idea about that.
And I should have said something to you. I didn't say anything to you, but I said something to somebody else. Like I remarked on it because I just thought that was an intimate thing.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on. How did it go about? He called you, right?
Yeah, so we golfed every Sunday. We were Saturday or Sunday, we were golf partners. And we had golfed the day before, and he had given me a call, and this was Christmas Day night. So all the presents were opened, everything else. And I got a call about 10 o'clock, and he said, "Hey, Scott." And I said, "Yeah, what's going on, bud?" And he goes, "Hey, I want you to be able, I want to ask you a favor." And I'm like, "Yeah, anything, what do you need?" He goes, "Can you just take care of her?" And I'm not going to use names. Let's just call her Jane. So can you take care of Jane? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, "I'm done. I'm out of here." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, I just left her. I'm out." I'm like, "Holy shit.
We're getting divorced.
He goes, "Yeah,
basically.
We're getting divorced." I'm like, literally guys, we had just ate Christmas Eve dinner with them. Mm-hmm. Not 24 hours previous.
Didn't pick up on any tension out of the ordinary.
Nothing. And this wasn't when he sniffed your face.
No, that would have been like weeks earlier. But I do remember one time I was going to pick up Mexican food, and I called and I said, "Hey, do you guys want? I'm going up to Fausto's. Do you guys want anything?" And so they gave me a list of stuff they wanted. And when I came home, I went to ring their doorbell to deliver the food, and I could hear her in there, like literally yelling at the top of her lungs.
Yeah.
Like she was in a full-on rage. Yeah. And I remember being so shocked. So I set the food down.
And mind you, we had never seen any of that.
No, we never experienced any of that with them. So I went home. I called and I said, "Hey, I just dropped your food off. It's at your front door." Right. And just left it at that. So then after the fact, when this all came about, I mean, it just blew us away. We didn't see it coming. We were shocked.
So I was on the phone with him and I'm like, "Bro, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I've had enough. I can't deal with this anymore, blah, blah, blah." And he kind of unloaded some stuff on me. I'm like, he goes, I just want you to look out for her." I'm like, man, that is just I mean, literally you could have knocked me over with the feather. Cause I was just, and Ann was like looking at me cause I was on the phone. She couldn't hear the other side. And my face just must've been white.
He was just shocked. It was like white. Yeah.
Shocked. And I'm like, I hung up the phone and she's like, "What happened? What's wrong? Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they just, Bob just told me he's divorcing Jane." And I'm like, I just don't know where this, I mean, literally we golfed and we talked about everything. Anything we would talk about.
We were like a part of each other's daily lives at that point.
Our dog was there.
Our dogs would go over to their house and spend the night. I mean, it was the weirdest thing.
We'd get a call at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah,
the dogs are over here. We're just going to shut up everything.
We're just going to close them. They're going to go to bed with us. I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever."
Have fun.
And so I was like, "Well, gosh darn it, that's crazy." And he had talked about some things about marriage, just stupid shit. Nothing like, she's being a bitch or anything, just daily stuff. I mean,
things in passing type.
Like guys would talk about their wives. He wasn't, bagging her, and I wouldn't bag Ann to him. And it was just talk, And so I'm like, well, God dang it. This really sucks. And, we didn't see her for a week or so. I mean, she was like pent up. She was drinking.
Went into hiding.
She went into drinking mode.
She was hitting it hard.
She was drinking mode. And so what had started happening, and and I know where we're tying this into. We're circling around the rabbit here, as far as, keeping your relationship as far as
safe from exterior,
foreign and domestic.
For foreign and domestic.
So what had started happening is, he would call me, I don't know, a couple of times a week, ask how everything was going. I'm like, "Yeah, everything is good." And Ann was just like, "Fuck Bob. He is an asshole. He is just such an asshole."
Who leaves their wife on Christmas?
Who leaves their wife on Christmas? And I'm like going, well, I think Jane's kind of a bitch, I mean, for what, a little bit of what I heard and everything. She's like, no, that's bullshit. Bob is such a dick, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. And what had started happening is we had started taking sides. Yeah. I took Bob's side. She took Jane's side. And I was like going, well, fuck no, man. I go, you're crazy. I go, no, Jane's the problem. And then she would go, no, Bob's the problem. And I mean, this went on for a good 2, 3, 4 weeks. I mean, we were just,
I would say 2 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And then you identified it as a problem.
Yeah, it wasn't our topic of discussion for everything, but it was.
We talked about it a lot.
We did,
because it was a big event in our life at that point.
So finally we started arguing. I mean, and we were just going back and forth with each other. Like, I'm taking Bob's side.
And then do you remember what you said?
100%. I finally recognized it, and I said, you know what? I go, their relationship and their breaking up has nothing to do with us. And it has nothing to do with bettering our relationship. It only can worsen our relationship. I said, I'm going to tell you what. I said, you tell me what side you're on, and I'm on the side that you're on. Because there was no possible way for us to, I mean, I could see us getting in an argument and a fight over something that they were dealing with.
Yeah.
It's like this now, their relationship was now affecting our relationship.
Their drama was becoming our drama.
Yeah. And so I said, if you're with Jane, I'm with you and Jane. If you want to go with Bob, then I'm with Bob and you. I don't care what side it is, but I'm not going to fight with you on their relationship.
What Scott said to me was, pick a side.
Yeah.
Whatever side you pick is the side I'm on. He goes, we are not going to jeopardize our marriage fighting about their marriage.
Right.
And I was like, whoa. And then as we got more into it and we realized there is 2 sides to every story.
Yeah.
Because she turned on us at one point.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, I don't want this discussion to go into that. I think that the way we started it is you have to protect your relationship from foreign and domestic, whether it's outside sources and your friends or it's your kids. I mean, we can go into that too.
Maybe it's your work. Maybe you're spending too much time hitting the bar after work with your buddies. Yeah. Or, I mean, there's a whole list of things it could be. And as far as domestic, maybe you've got a situation where your kids are demanding so much of your time that you're not spending enough time on your partner, or maybe you have an in-law that you're battling with, or maybe there's issues in the house that aren't being addressed that are, I mean, just be heads up about the stuff that's coming your way, because there is always going to be something. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that too is like, with young kids, we had 3 kids. We had 2 kids in baseball and another one in soccer. I mean, I'm sure that, our demographic is that kind of age group, and understanding that, I was at the ball fields every day with the kids.
So when the boys were too little to play, Scott was already coaching Little League, and he coached teams that went into championships and stuff like that. And so we were at the ballpark all the time, to the point that could have honestly been an issue at some point. We're going off on a tangent. What's the tangent with the kids? Just that we were scattered in a million directions?
No, but what I'm saying is, like, foreign and domestic, like within our family, it's like, and kids taking a side, and as far as us not spending enough time together, as far as cherishing and protecting our marriage. Right. So you're going to be torn apart with the kids. The kids are going to grow up. The kids are going to take a side, and again, like I've said it in previous podcasts too. It's like, when I wasn't as nice to Ann, and so the kids would take mom's side because they're protecting mom, which is totally cool. And conversely, the kids can pit one against the other real easy.
Very easily.
And that's the domestic
Dad said
side.
I couldn't do this, but you said I could.
Right. That's the domestic side of how you have to protect your relationship as far as husband, wife, spouse.
That's one of them. I mean, there's several, I think.
Right. But I think that you really have to watch that as far as your kids can get involved and put a wedge in between your relationship.
I think it's important to be a united front.
Right. But go into the kids putting a wedge into it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of our kids at one point said, I wish that you would just divorce Dad and we could get an apartment together. I'm like, what the hell? That's not happening.
Yeah.
And I told him that. I go, that's not happening.
Yeah. And I think that comes into where you really have to, it's almost like Bob and Jane. It's like, that was going to ruin our relationship over something so stupid. Now, again, if it comes from within, as far as in-laws or your parents or the kids, you have to identify that pretty damn quick.
Yeah, because it's going to be relentless.
That goes sideways real quick. With outside sources and friends, again, we talked about it, but it wasn't our daily thing. If you've got kids living in the house and you're feeling like the kids are trying to tear you apart or pull you in one way and the other one the other way, you guys need to close your bedroom door and have a big old discussion about
Yes, you
that.
do. Yes, you do. That is a pitfall big time. It was for us. And we identified it. We talked about it.
But
I still feel
don't brush over that. Don't brush over that.
No, I'm not. I know.
I'm not. When you say that we talked about it, we discussed it, it was many talks and many discussions and there was crying involved in it. And there was fuck that. You're going to do this or we're not going to do that. And we've talked about communication in the past too. It's like there was a lot of communication that went involved in that.
Yes,
because let's just face it, Mama Bear is going to protect her cubs. I mean, let's say this.
Sometimes the cubs need a good swat.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just talking from our standpoint, when your wife births 3 kids, I don't care how special you think you are as a dad, there's a different connection in that.
There is.
100%. So there's mama cub protecting her babies and then you're on the outside. So that's why a lot of times there was many times where I felt like it was 4-on-1 until we discussed it.
Yes.
And there was
and there's many times I think it wasn't fair to you. I mean, we would, the kids, of course, would come to me and then I would go to him and then I would insert myself in the middle of this thing and I should have just let them work it out. But, like Scott said, protective mama bear. But
again,
and
with that,
we had one that was particularly more manipulative than the others too.
Of course. But I think when you have 3 kids, you're going to have 3 different personalities.
Right.
And we've said it before too, not on here, but, all 3 of our kids came from the same sperm donor and egg recipient. And all 3 of them are
radically different,
extremely different, extremely to this day.
That always just tickles me. Like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect 3 clones, but I didn't expect 3 radically different perspectives, courses of action,
living in the same house,
living in the same house with all the same stuff,
with 3 different versions of what happened.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing to it.
Right.
So this is the domestic,
terrorism
that you have to protect yourself from and, being on the same page. And it's for us, it was hard. It is going to be hard, but you have to keep, the communication between each other. And it's not always, it sounds so easy now that we're sitting here, talking
sounds like
about
we have all the answers.
Fuck, man.
When you're in the middle of it, good luck. We did not have all the answers. And, we always say we talked about it. It sounds so civilized. All our discussions and talks were not civilized. No. Because there was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of anger.
Well,
There's a lot of frustration.
On both sides of hurt. Both sides of hurt, frustration, and anger. She felt the exact same hurt, anger, and frustration that I did in different ways.
Yep.
I was hurt, feeling angry because I felt as though I was 4 against 1. I felt, she felt it was anger, hurt, and all that other stuff because she thought that I was being too difficult or something.
Or maybe too hard on the kids or.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. It was tough. Those were some tough years.
I think you just, going back to Bob and Jane or whatever we call them.
Yeah. Let's talk about them instead.
Going back to that, I think that as a couple, you can have good friends, you can have, acquaintances, but I think once you start involving their bullshit into your life, there's no benefit to it. Absolutely none.
I agree.
The only benefit that you can gain from it is to watch how they're fucking up and don't do it.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, if somebody comes to you and they ask you for some help or some advice, that's the one thing. But somebody that just wants to involve you in their drama or wants you to take sides against partners and stuff like that, who has time for that shit? I don't want to deal with that. It's one thing if somebody comes and says, "Hey, I'm having an issue with this. Can you just give me your perspective?" or something like that's a whole different ballgame. I'm totally happy to do that or help you in any way I can. But if it's just you want me to take sides with you against your spouse, I'm not interested in playing that game.
Let me go on a way different angle that we really didn't touch on or that we didn't have an issue with. But what about, and I'll just ask you this because I'm sure that this happens. I know it happens. What about a girl that's had a wife or a girl that you're married to, and she's had a best friend since 3rd grade. And all of a sudden you're now married to your husband, and your girlfriend that you've known since 3rd grade starts saying, God, your husband's just being a dick to you. Why do you put up with that shit?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard it and I've seen it from other people. It's like and it can go for a guy that you've been in high school buddies with or frat buddies with. And it's like, God, man, your wife's being such a bitch. It's like, you married that person and you love that person, yet you're taking the advice from someone that I'm sure they know all the girls and guys that you dated and everything else and all the fun times and the parties and stuff that you went to. Are you still living in your single life being married? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you still living in your single life being married? Or are you now, growing up and still listening to those past friends and relationships that you had and still taking the advice from people that you used to get drunk with and, banged everybody that you could.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah. That would be a huge pitfall.
Yeah. And we haven't really had to deal with that because we've had friends and everything else, but I think that I can see it in the sense where, well, Mary's been my friend since 3rd grade and we've only been married for a year. It's like, well, yeah, but we're married.
Right.
Are you going to listen to her and are you going to still keep doing that? And the same with the guy. I'm not just isolating it to women because guys do the same thing. It's like, we played football and since junior high together and me and him have, all the stuff that we've done, but you're married now. I mean, this is your partner and this is, foreign people that are getting involved with it now.
Now they're kind of a border on domestic, really.
Well, yeah, if they've been with you for a long time, but I mean,
yeah,
you're going to have to draw that line in the sand on.
You're going to have to draw that line and draw it quick.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to put that person in their place and say, listen, you've been my friend, but I don't want to hear this from you. You have to stick up for your spouse. I don't know. From where I stand, when you get married, it's a forever thing. And friends are going to come and go. And I understand that we're talking about a long-term relationship. And I'm not saying jettison the relationship, but I'm just saying you need to put your friend in check and let her know or him know, back to boundaries, that that's not acceptable.
And understand, I don't know if we've gone over this and stuff. And I know that we're talking from a standpoint of only one marriage. And I know that there's people out there that have multiple marriages, and I don't discount that at all. And I'll stand up by saying it this way. We may not have multiple marriages, but we come from multiple marriages. So we're the product. We're your kids. We're your kids if you've been married more than once and you're remarried. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, to me it does.
Yeah, no.
So let me give you some history. So my dad was married 4 times. My mom was married twice. Scott's dad was married 3 times, and his mom was married 3 times.
So we're the 13th marriage.
Yeah. So we'd like to say we're the 13th marriage because that's our lucky number. But
so I think that a lot of the times when we're talking about this and saying it, we understand completely that this might be a second marriage or a third marriage. Those are listening to this. I understand that, but understand we're your kids and have lived through that, which is a different aspect.
It's a whole different perspective. I think that's a topic for.
No, I know. But what all I'm getting.
I guess can I jump in?
Go ahead.
So let's talk about this marriage, the marriage that you're in right now.
Correct.
And let's talk about how we make this marriage work.
Correct.
And how you protect this marriage from enemies, foreign and domestic, and how you cherish this spouse and focus on this person.
What's the topic that we're talking on?
Protecting your marriage from enemies, foreign and domestic.
Right. And I just say that I didn't know if there was a catchword that we're going off of it. So
did you lose your train of thought?
I know. If there's
Have
a
we been
camera
on
on,
it too long?
no. I just want it to be where, the marriage that you're in right now that you're protecting, there's going to be a ton of outside sources trying to break it up.
Particularly if you've been married before and there's children involved and you're dealing with an ex. That's got to be so much more complicated.
We're talking about our kids that come from us that were trying to tear us apart.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, I was one of them. I can imagine being the kid involved in a new stepdad or a new stepmom. You don't think that, we think it's bad. I understand how much worse you guys have it. So those little terrorists that you guys birthed, they're going to try and tear shit up because we were those terrorist birthed children.
We were. I was horrible. Oh my gosh.
I don't think I was horrible.
My poor stepmother, I made her life a living hell.
Yeah, I don't think I made them.
You weren't like that.
No, I really wasn't. But I had a different scenario than you did.
Yeah. And we finally worked it out, and I love her. She's a great lady.
Yeah.
Okay. We went off on another tangent like we're
No, you see, Ann always says we go off on a tangent, but I think these tangents bring it right back.
We do.
I think these tangents bring it right back to what we're trying to say is you've got to protect your marriage from foreign and domestic. And whether it's friends that you start taking sides with and you start seeing a gap going in between you two, or it's kids. It's all about communication. When I told Ann, I said, pick a side, I really meant that. It's like, I don't care the outcome of their relationship. I care about ours. I don't care what the kids think about it. My ultimate thing is I always envision, this sounds weird. I semi-planned when we were going to have kids. And I say semi-planned because we said we were going to do 3 vacations before we had kids. We didn't go on one. We had kids right away. But I wanted my kids to be old enough to be out of the house by the time I was 55.
That worked out.
And it worked out. Mm-hmm. So I think we're living our best life right now. Not saying that our lives weren't good when the kids were around, but I think that we've prepared ourselves to be in this spot of being empty nesters, of being united in one as far as, what we want out of our life moving forward. We don't have to go to soccer practice or baseball practice or anything else. Obviously, when grandkids come in and they get involved, we'll extend that into that. But for right now, we have made our marriage to this point because I kind of had a long-term goal in it. I only wanted to be married once, and I only will be married once. And that's me. That's not telling you guys what to do. Mm-hmm. That's me. You guys have your certain standards that you're going to live by, and that's what is within you. Totally cool.
I agree with that. I'm glad that our firsts were all with each other.
Yeah. So we can go in first on another podcast, but
we sure can.
With that, guys, cherish your relationship. Talk to each other.
Protect your relationship. Identify
those little terrorists.
Pitfalls and enemies.
Terrorists.
And I don't want to act like children are the enemy, but be aware that there can be challenges coming.
There can be challenges from parents, from kids, from grandparents, from
friends,
neighbors, from your high school buddies, your childhood friends,
career choices.
Career choices. Just protect that and always communicate with your partner.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
That's the biggest part. Okay.
Okay.
With that, guys.
I love you.
Love you too, baby.
Okay.
Bye.